And let's bring in Republican strategist, former Vivek Ramaswamy senior advisor Tricia McLaughlin, along with ABC News contributor, former Progressive Senate candidate Christina Ramirez. For more, ladies, thank you for coming on. Christina, what's your response to those who say Harris's plan for this $25,000 subsidy for first-time home buyers could actually increase home prices?
Well, I see that Harris has a multi-pronged approach, right? She has $25,000 for new home buyers. I work with young people. I'm so excited we're finally talking about housing, because for years across the country, we're hearing from young people that they were feeling like they were priced out, that they were never going to be able to afford a home. So this is a big step forward. But then her plan also looks at supply chain and that $40 billion innovation fund for local governments, because this is a crisis that can't just be solved by the federal government. I live in Austin, Texas. This is one of the most expensive markets that blew up, and it has become increasingly difficult for people to afford a home here. So we've needed local government to step up, state government, and that's what her innovation fund does. We can look at density, zoning laws, how to support local initiatives, because even though the federal government can and support building, as she has in her plan, millions of new homes, it really is going to take local government to step up. So having a great president that can work with local and state government and understands local and state government as someone like she does, this is how we're going to be able to solve this crisis.
Tricia, Trump has proposed opening up federal lands for large-scale construction, but most federal land is used for environmental conservation out west. So in addition to the environmental concerns, how does that solve the housing crisis for millions of Americans living and working in other areas?
Well, I think, of course, you always have to look at unintended consequences of these policies, whether it be President Trump using federal lands or Kamala Harris offering to give new home buyers $25,000, which could, of course, exacerbate prices and contribute to more demand without contributing to more supply. So I think that these are things that we really have to keep in mind. But of course, there really is a massive housing crisis going on. I mean, not just in the buying side, but housing is 22% higher than it was. So we have to not just look at the here and now for the next couple of years, but we have to look 10, 20, 30 years down the line. How does this have generational consequences for Americans?
Christina, both Trump and Harris say they want to promote homeownership through tax incentives. The Nonpartisan Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget says both candidates' economic plans could add up to $2 trillion to the deficit over the next decade. How do you pay for that?
Well, I think Harris has already talked about building a tax system that is fair and what most Americans want. They want to tax the rich their fair share. They want to see corporations be taxed more. And she's outlined plans to do that. And I think we're going to see even more going forward. We have, nurses, teachers, secretaries paying much more than the wealthiest Americans in their tax share. And some of the biggest corporations, big expose showing that none of them paid taxes over the last few years, corporate taxes. That is an outrage. And we have to make sure that the wealthiest Americans that benefit from the hard work of this country and the people that get to live in it, that they are paying their fair share. And that's why I think Harris is such an important candidate, because she is talking about building a fair tax system so that we can pay for everything.
Tricia, Trump has left a lot unspecified here. How can voters trust that he has a concrete plan to tackle this issue?
Well, I mean, I think we have the great thing about this race is that we have two records that we get to compare directly to each other. We have President Trump. He has the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which actually the Biden-Harris administration kept in place. Major pieces of that really does hang in the balance. And it's shown that the majority of families, middle-class families, would pay about $2,000 more if that isn't enacted in the future. But also we have the Harris and Biden plan, which, we've seen really the repercussions of that as far as prices are 20% higher. We're dealing with pretty much double the inflation that we were in the last 4 years. So I think Americans can ask themselves, am I better off over the last 4 years, or was I better off when Donald Trump was president? And that actually is the beauty of our system, particularly in this race.
Tricia McLaughlin, Christina Ramirez, thank you both.